I got all four of these. Everything's a mess because I haven't cleaned up the welds yet. But I got all four of these guys on there, and I realized that I made a pretty big rookie mistake. Hey everybody, welcome back to DeHaven Family Farm. Thanks so much for joining me for today's video. I think it's going to be a pretty good one. I bought a cheap Chinese bucket that's meant to go on one of those Chinese excavators, and we're going to see if we can modify it to fit on my Kubota. Let's get started and see what we get into here. All right, so this is what I bought. This is a 40-inch wide grading bucket. You can see, if you can read upside down, it says Lanty. That is one of the brands of the Chinese excavators that keep showing up at everybody's auction. There was actually a bunch of excavators at this auction, but I've been looking for a tilt bucket for my machine. That's a 24-inch bucket right there. And all the ones that I could find that were meant to go on my machine were about $4 grand. And okay, that's not a terrible price, but not in the budget right now. So I saw this at the auction. I think they had two. I paid $800 for it. It came with hydraulic hoses. We are going to have to see about what we're going to do with those to modify them. I need skid steer flat face couplers because that is what plugs in on my machine here for auxiliary hydraulics. Like I said, this is a tilt bucket. Here's the little baby hydraulic cylinder. This tilt, it'll tilt side to side. Overall, the bucket is actually built pretty well. I'm kind of surprised. Now, the depth of the bucket is a little bit less than what it would be if I bought one that is actually sized for this machine. But that's okay with me. It's 40 inches wide, so that's pretty good size. Excuse me. So, before we go any further, I know what a couple of you are probably thinking. This lighter duty Chinese bucket is not going to last very long on my machine. But it should be okay for what I want to do with it. So the main reason that I wanted one of these buckets is for cleanup work on a job site. You're working your way out, you're doing some grading, and having that tilt bucket just makes all the difference. So that's the main reason. I just want it for kind of some cleanup work. Maybe I'll do some light scraping with it, or scoop and move some loose topsoil that's already been screened. I don't intend to do any major digging with this bucket. So I'm okay that it's a little bit lighter duty than one that would be designed for my machine. Now, the other thing is that with this Kubota excavator, and I'll show this as we go along here in the process, you can control the flow of hydraulic oil. So, for example, my brush cutter that I have for this, I turn the flow off for the one direction and just have it circling the correct direction. So I can actually turn that down. I forget how many little bars or settings are in there. We'll have to see when we get there. But basically what I'm going to do is turn the flow way down so that I'm not sending a whole bunch of oil to this thing all at once. And hopefully by me doing that, it will not blow out this little baby cylinder here. So again, I hope by turning the flow down that we will not blow out this little baby cylinder that's here. So we're gonna have to modify the hydraulic hoses most likely. And obviously this little fitting up here is meant to go on one of those little baby machines. So what I did is I went on the old interweb and I found, so you guys can see it here, the two ears and a plate. This is the style hookup for my Kubota machine. And what we're going to do, we got to weld all this together, but we're going to grind these two tabs off. And then we may have to do some sort of, if we tip this all the way down, We might have to make some kind of a spacer here to weld on before we put that plate on. Since that plate's so much wider, we need to make sure the side of the plate does not come down and hit the bucket. So we'll have a little bit of modifying to do to it. I paid 130 bucks for those 3 pieces. I thought about trying to do something myself, but this is really thick. I think it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, pretty close to that. And I don't have anything that will cut through steel that thick and do a nice job. The plasma cutter I have only goes 1/4 inch, and I thought about cutting out 2 1/4 inch pieces and weld them together, but that's a lot of hassle. I just bought this. So this is what is going to go on top of this bucket, and there you go. So there is the overview to this project. Now we're going to get started. What I want to do here quick is see if I can pick this plate up here and set this on here. Just give it an eyeball. That's pretty centered. So now what we want to do is take and tip this sideways. Yep, it's going to hit. So what we'll have to do then is build something on top of this that will put this plate kind of up here higher so we have more room and don't hit the bucket. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do here, sorry, is you can see that this has a notch out on this side. That side didn't really. There was kind of a notch there. I don't know. It was really weird. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, cut it down, and we'll weld a piece on here, a piece on this side, and then we'll cut a front and a back. And that way I'm not just taking flat material kind of like this was and trying to make a box with it. We'll actually have a nice flange on the bottom there to weld, you know, give us more place to weld and make it stronger. So what I need to do now is I'm going to cut out some pieces of what I need here and get to work. All right, so this is what I did. I made kind of a box here. Everything will fit together. All right, just taking a break from welding this guy together here. I was gonna weld the top, but then I realized if I weld the top, then I gotta grind them all down because I want the plate, that plate, to sit on here nice and flush. So I got most of everything. I still gotta clean some slag off, but I did weld some inside too. So that should be okay. And I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow, same video for you guys, tomorrow for me, is I'm gonna take this pin out, and that way I can take this and completely flip it over, put it on the welding table over there, and then I can weld that plate on, and I might put a couple gussets on it too, but that's where we are right now. There we go. Oh, it's still attached down there, isn't it? All right, there. Had to take the whole thing out. Not a big deal, just a few bolts. So I got this plate welded to our little extension here for this bucket, and I was thinking that I wanted to maybe put a few gussets, maybe one on each side. This bucket is not going to be used for heavy digging or anything, but still it's nice to maybe put a little extra support in there. So what I have is this little guy right there, and I just wanted to give you a little tip. Obviously you can see I made this out of cardboard. It's a very easy way to play around with some different angles and what's going to work. This was the piece here that I have. It was just another scrap. So I started with a piece that was the width of this, and then I cut it down, and I did make a couple mistakes, so this is not my first one of these, but that's why you do it in cardboard. So now we can take this and come over here and we can transfer it on there, and we can cut 4 of these out. We'll put 1 on each side and weld those guys on there. All right, we got our 4 guys cut out. I just used the cutoff wheel on the grinder. Took me about 10 minutes. Let's get these guys welded on. Got the door open, letting all the smoke air out of the shop. I got all 4 of these. Everything's a mess because I haven't cleaned up the welds yet. But I got all 4 of these guys on there, and I realized that I made a pretty big rookie mistake. All right, so I don't know if you guys can tell, this is a 3/4 inch piece of steel here, and must be from me welding this little box on here, or extension. I got it too hot and I warped it. I'll see if I can show you guys here. You can kind of see there's a little gap there. This piece is able to rock back and forth. So it's basically crowned up this way, and I think the same thing going the opposite direction. So, you know, I didn't, around the box that we put in here for the extension, I welded 3 or 4 times all the way around to get a nice strong weld, and I did pause between them, but apparently it was not long enough to let the piece cool down. I just got it too hot. So don't make that mistake like I did. Now what I got to do is figure out how to get these ears for the Kubota style on this plate so that they're not crooked one way or the other. All right guys, this is what I've done here to make sure this works out. I actually hooked the ears to the machine, and it might be starting to settle a little bit here. No, it's still loose. I got to make sure this pin is a little bit loose, and I'm going to just do some welding on the outside of each of these ears. The excavator arm might be relaxing, so I got to be quick about this. I did disconnect the battery from the machine just in case, so now I got to get welding on it here. So I was able to pull the pin out super easy. So now I just have to be careful as I weld this. We'll do some stitches here and there, and just do a little bit at a time, make sure we don't make anything worse. But I think by sort of mounting it on the machine and making sure everything was lined up, I think we'll be okay from here on out. Just have to be careful welding. So I'm going to get back to welding this baby on there. Well, we're into the following day here. All my welding is cooled down enough that, you know, overnight everything's cold now. And I was able to get to hydraulic shop and get some bits and pieces here. These hoses that came with it just are some kind of weird size. They're not a standard size. So what I was able to do was they found me fittings that would screw into the original cylinder, and then from there, everything after that on the hoses, the couplers, everything is all standard sizes. So if I snag this hose on something and bust it open, I can easily have one made someplace. I don't have to go to a specialty place to do that. So that's that. I may try to take, there's like a protective coating on these. I may try to take that off and move it to these. So I have everything put together here. Hydraulic lines going up to these quick connects on the machine. I just have to turn the valve here to go this side. That side is running the thumb right now. But we'll have to see what happens. If this works out, we'll have to do something with the hoses. What I'm not sure of is, you know, in the cab on the joystick, the auxiliary hydraulic thumb switch, obviously I wanted to turn it one way and have the bucket go one way and the other the opposite way. So these two might have to be swapped in order for me to accomplish, you know, having things the way I want them. The other thing we have to be careful, we're just going to test this a little bit right now. That pin and another pin down there are just tapped in there. There's nothing holding them, so I don't want to turn this thing too many times. I didn't put the pin in for this guy either because it was just a test run. So we're ready to do a test run. Okay, I'll show you real quick on the screen here what we do. We're going to go to menu. Sorry about the loud beeping. We're going to go down to auxiliary flow control set. Hit the arrow. And then here is the kind of image for a swinging bucket. And you can see these two guys. This is the flow turned all the way down. All right, everything seems to be working okay here. Other than I got to do something with these hoses. I tipped it up. I wasn't sure if this was going to come down and hit, but it doesn't seem to, because this side is higher than this side, the way this comes down. So I was worried about hitting the cylinder, but it won't. And then tipping it all the way up, I was worried that this was maybe going to hit, and it doesn't. It doesn't appear as though we have any leaks. We do have the hoses set to the right side, so that was a weird miracle. So I guess the only two things left to do are, well, I guess there's three. We have to put pins in those, but we got to take all that apart again to take this off, to clean it up and paint it. And we'll have to figure out what to do with these hoses, some kind of little brackets or something, because this one was wanting to get caught here. And I got to keep this down so that when the bucket goes up, so we'll figure that out. But overall, at least at this point, it looks like a success. So I'll get all this stuff painted, and then at the end of the video too, we'll tally up what it costs to actually do this. All right, got this hung up over here. It's pretty heavy, but I will be able to get it primed and painted while it's hanging here. So I'm going to do that. I won't bore you with any of the painting, and then we'll get it put back together when it's dry. All right, 2 coats of primer, 1 top coat. So I got to let that dry a little bit and put the second top coat on. All right, here's almost the finished product. I'm still going to take that sticker off. And I do need to see about some sort of maybe kind of spring-loaded hydraulic hose holders that I could put on here. This one wants to kind of get caught around the bucket sometimes. This one here seems to be okay because it gets routed a different way. But, you know, here's the piece that I painted and welded up. Show you that there. I think I showed you like a clip maybe of painting it. So, overall, there we go. So now real quick before I close out the video, I'm going to go over the cost of this project. Okay, so here's a rundown of what I spent. The tilt bucket from the auction was 800 bucks. The Kubota quick attach plates, I had the flat plate and then the 2 Sets of ears, 130 bucks. Hydraulic hoses and fittings, 250. Maybe that could have been a little bit less if I had just used the hoses that they had given me and not, just got adapters for them. But I changed it out so everything was nice standard sizes. Welding and painting supplies, I threw in 25 bucks there for some welding rods and a little bit of paint. Comes to $1,205. So as I said, the least expensive, I don't want to say cheapest because it's not cheaply built, but the least expensive tilt bucket I could buy was a 36-inch, this is a 40, was about $4,000, and I think there'd be sales tax and possibly shipping on top of that, but we'll just call it 4,000 bucks. And I spent $1,200 on this. Obviously, it's not quite the same. Some of the components with the cylinder and whatnot, I'll have to be careful with the pin. Obviously, it's a little bit lighter duty, but all I wanted this for was doing some finish grading work as I leave projects. It's so stony around here, you cannot dig with a smooth edge bucket very successfully. So I'm happy with that. I was gonna put a clip of trying this bucket out in this video, but it's towards the end of March now and we're getting snow outside, so I really can't go out and dig anything right now. So stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon if you want to see me digging with this for the first time. If you enjoy these kind of fabrication projects, equipment, of course we have tractor videos. We'll have all that coming up. So I appreciate everybody watching. Any questions or comments down below. Thanks so much for being here, and I sure hope to see y'all on the next video.